Close your eyes now, my sweet friend. Let the weight of the day slip from your shoulders like an old cloak falling softly to the floor. Feel the pillow cradle your head, the blanket wrap around you like the gentle hills of the Shire on a quiet autumn evening. Breathe in slowly, breathe out even slower, and let my voice, barely above a whisper, drift into your ears like warm candlelight on a rainy night. Tonight I am going to tell you the entire tale of the Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, the way it was meant to be heard when the world is silent and sleep is calling. Every secret, every heartbreak, every moment of wonder, nothing hidden, because this is a story you already know in your heart, and tonight we are simply remembering it together so that it can carry you gently into dreams. You may hear the faint patter of rain against an imaginary hobbit window, the soft crackle of a distant hearth, the occasional turn of an ancient page. Let those sounds hold you. Let them rock you like a boat on the Brandywine at dusk. Did you know that when Peter Jackson first read Tolkien's books as a teenager on a train ride in New Zealand, he missed his stop because he was so lost in Middle-earth? That single moment changed cinema forever. And here we are now, decades later, curled up together in the dark, about to walk those same paths again. Have you ever felt a story reach inside your chest and squeeze, just a little, the first time you saw Gandalf's fireworks explode over the party field? Hold that feeling, keep it close, because we are going back there tonight. Imagine the scent of pipeweed drifting on cool night air, sweet and earthy, mingling with wood smoke and freshly baked seed cakes still warm from the oven. Imagine the soft glow of lanterns strung between hobbit holes, round windows glowing amber, laughter spilling out like honey. This is the Shire, safe and green and far away from trouble, or so everyone believed on the night of Bilbo Baggins's 11th birthday. You can almost taste the blackberry jam on crusty bread, feel the cool grass under bare hobbit feet, hear the rustle of party tents in the breeze. And somewhere in the crowd, a young Frodo Baggins, eyes bright with wonder, watches his uncle vanish in a flash of light and smoke, the very first shadow of the great tale that is about to swallow his quiet life whole. Have you ever stood at the edge of something enormous and not known it yet? That moment when everything ordinary is about to become extraordinary? That is where Frodo stands tonight, beneath those fireworks painted across the sky like dragons and sailing ships. 17 years later, on another quiet evening, Gandalf the Grey will ride up the lane in his creaking cart, and the ring that Bilbo found deep beneath the misty mountains will reveal its terrible truth. It is the One Ring, forged by Sauron in the fires of Mount Doom, hungry for power, whispering, always whispering. You will hear that whisper soon, soft and poisonous, curling around Frodo's thoughts like smoke under a door. But not yet. For now, there is only the warmth of Bag End, the smell of old books and pipe ash, the ticking of a grandfather clock, and Gandalf's low, kind voice saying, "Bilbo meant to leave it to you all along, Frodo, and now it is yours." Let your breathing slow even more, deeper, heavier. Feel your body sinking into the mattress, as though the very hill of Hobbiton is pressing gently down to keep you safe. Have you ever carried something that felt heavier than its weight, something that seemed to grow colder the longer you held it? Frodo will know that feeling soon, the chill of gold against his chest, the way the ring seems to watch him even when his eyes are closed. Tonight we will walk every step with him, from the moment he slips it into his pocket on a starry night and feels the first tug of destiny, to the final heartbreaking choice on the banks of the Anduin when friendship itself becomes the only light left in a darkening world. And because this is our safe place, I will pause whenever the story grows heavy. Let the rain speak for a moment. Let the fire settle so your heart never races too fast. We are in no hurry. Middle-earth has waited thousands of years. It can wait another breath, another heartbeat while you drift. One more deep inhale, hold it softly. Now exhale everything that does not belong here tonight. Good. Very good. When we begin the tale properly, you will hear the rustle of leaves in the green dragon's garden, the clink of mugs, the nervous laughter of Samwise Gamgee as he overhears talk of elves and walking trees. You will feel the damp morning mist on the day Frodo leaves Bag End forever, the way his fingers tremble on the gate latch, the way Sam's hand finds his shoulder and squeezes, steady and sure. We will stand together on the edge of the old forest and feel the air change, thick with moss and secrets. We will kneel in the rain at Weathertop and taste blood and fear when the Black Riders come. We will fall with Gandalf into shadow and rise again in fire. And through it all you will never be alone, because I am here, whispering every detail, every scent of pine and salt and terror and hope, until the very last page turns and sleep finally claims you. Are you ready, dear heart? Can you feel the Shire already forming behind your eyelids, green and gold and impossibly gentle? Then let the rain grow a little louder outside our imaginary round window. Let the candle flicker lower, and let us begin where every great journey begins, with a single step out the door, into the wide, waiting night. Feel the soft cotton of your pillow beneath your cheek now. Let every muscle in your face loosen, your jaw, your forehead, the tiny place between your eyebrows that carries the day. Let it all melt away while the rain keeps its patient rhythm on the roof of Bag End. And we step together into the first true chapter of the story, the one that begins with an ending. It is dawn in the Shire, pale gold light sliding across the round green door like warm butter on fresh bread. And inside Bag End the air smells of toast and wood smoke and old parchment. Frodo Baggins stands in the hallway clutching a small bundle wrapped in an old traveling cloak the color of moss after rain, and his fingers are trembling just slightly because Gandalf has told him everything the night before. The wizard's voice had been low and grave, the firelight carving deep shadows into his face as he spoke of Sauron, of Isildur's bane, of a gold ring that wants only to return to its master and will whisper and lie and burn until it does. Frodo had listened with the ring resting on the mantelpiece behind him, and even across the room he could feel it watching, the way you sometimes feel a stare on the back of your neck in an empty room. Have you ever held something beautiful that made your skin crawl the longer you looked at it? That is how Frodo feels when he finally slips the ring into his pocket, and the weight settles against his heart like a shard of ice wrapped in silk. Gandalf leaves at first light, his cart creaking away down the lane, and Frodo stands on the step, breathing in the cool morning air thick with dew and honeysuckle. He is supposed to meet Merry and Pippin later, supposed to sell Bag End to the Sackville Bagginses, supposed to pretend this is just another walking holiday, but his feet already know they will never truly come home again. Samwise Gamgee is in the garden, kneeling among the nasturtiums, earth under his fingernails and a worried crease between his brows. Sam heard everything last night through the open window, heard talk of elves and rings and going away, and when Frodo calls him over his voice is steady, but his eyes are wide and shining. "Mr. Frodo, if you don't mind me saying, I'm coming with you. My dad would skin me if I let you go off alone, and besides, I promised Gandalf I'd keep an eye on you." Frodo wants to argue, wants to protect Sam from what is coming, but the relief that floods his chest is so strong he can only nod, and when Sam's calloused hand grips his shoulder, the warmth of it travels all the way to Frodo's toes. They leave at twilight, 3 hobbits slipping out the back way like children sneaking to a midnight feast, packs on their backs and fear in their throats. The path smells of crushed mint and cooling earth, and the first stars are coming out like tiny lanterns hung just for them. Behind them, Bag End's windows glow one last time, round and golden and heartbreakingly small. Have you ever closed a door knowing you would never open it again the same way? That is the soft click Frodo hears when the gate shuts, the sound of childhood ending. They walk for days through the gentle hills, sleeping under hedges thick with blackberries still tart on the tongue, waking to birdsong and the smell of wet grass. Merry and Pippin join them sooner than planned, tumbling out of a farmer's field with stolen mushrooms and breathless laughter, and suddenly the company is 4. Pippin's curls bounce when he runs, Merry's grin is bright as apples, and for a little while the terror feels far away. They sing on the road, silly walking songs about baths and supper, and the sound rises into the evening sky like smoke from friendly chimneys. But the ring grows heavier every mile. Frodo catches himself touching it through his shirt, tracing its smooth circle with a thumb that does not feel entirely his own, and at night he dreams of a great eye, lidless, wreathed in flame, searching, always searching. Then comes the first true shadow. They are cutting across country when they hear the scream of a black rider on the wind, high and cold, like metal dragged across ice. The hobbits throw themselves into a hollow beneath an ancient oak, hearts hammering so loud they are sure the Nazgul can hear. Frodo feels the ring pulse against his chest, urging him to put it on, just for a moment, just to hide, and the temptation is so sweet it tastes like poison on his tongue. He clenches his teeth until his jaw aches and forces his hand away. Sam's breath is warm against his ear, whispering, "Hold on, Mr. Frodo, just hold on." And somehow they stay hidden while the rider passes, hoarse, snorting black vapor into the night. When it is gone, they lie shaking among the roots, the smell of turned earth and terror thick around them. Did you know that in the film, the sound the ring makes when it hits the floor in Bag End was actually the real sound of a gold ring dropped onto hardwood in a silent room, recorded and slowed down until it felt like the heartbeat of the world? That low, resonant hum you feel in your bones every time the ring speaks, that is real gold remembering it was once fire. They reach the village of Bree soaked to the skin, rain dripping from their hoods like tears. The prancing pony smells of ale and pipe smoke and wet wool, and the firelight is orange and welcoming until Frodo sees the hooded figure in the corner watching them, with eyes that reflect the flames too brightly. Aragorn, though they do not know his name yet, only that he is tall and weather-stained and speaks in a voice like wind over stone, he saves Frodo from the worst mistake of all. In a moment of panic in the common room, the ring slips onto Frodo's finger, and the world vanishes into gray horror, the eye blazing huge and close enough to touch. When Aragorn drags him upstairs and pulls the ring off, Frodo is sobbing without sound, the metal burning cold against his skin. "It wants to be found," he whispers, and Aragorn's hand is steady on his shoulder, grounding him the way only someone who has carried great burdens can. That night in room number 3, with the window creaking and the Black Riders circling below like wolves, Aragorn tells them who he is, heir of Isildur, Strider, Ranger of the Wild, and the hobbits listen, with the rain drumming on the roof and the taste of fear metallic on their tongues. Have you ever met someone who felt like safety walking on 2 legs? That is what Aragorn becomes that night, the first thread of the fellowship tying itself around their hearts. They leave before dawn, ponies plodding through mud that sucks at their hooves, and the journey to Weathertop begins. Days of wind and cold mist, and the constant feeling of being hunted. At night, they huddle together under cloaks that never quite keep out the chill, and Frodo's wound from the Morgul blade will come soon, but not yet. For now there is only the long road, the smell of pine needles crushed underfoot, the distant cry of geese flying south, and Sam singing softly under his breath to keep the darkness away, songs about stars and potatoes, and the simple courage of ordinary hearts. Let the rain soften now just a little, the way it does when the storm has decided to be kind, and feel your whole body growing heavier, your arms, your legs, your thoughts, all sinking deeper into the mattress while we walk the cold and lonely miles toward Weathertop and beyond, because the story is stretching its long arms around us, and there is still so far to go before we rest. The company moves at dusk and dawn, keeping to the wild, Aragorn leading with the quiet certainty of someone who has walked these lands for decades without ever quite belonging to them. The wind smells of frost coming early, sharp against the nose, and the grass is silvered with dew that soaks through hobbit leggings until their feet are numb. Every hill feels like a watcher. Every copse of trees hides a possible rider, and Frodo's hand keeps drifting to the ring beneath his shirt, feeling its perfect circle through layers of cloth, the metal somehow colder than the air itself. At night, Aragorn tells them stories in his low, slow voice, stories of Beren and Luthien, of starlight caught in a single tear, and the hobbits fall asleep to the rhythm of ancient words and the soft scrape of Aragorn, sharpening his sword by firelight that never quite reaches his eyes. They reach the ruined watchtower of Weathertop on a night when the moon is thin and cruel. The stones are broken and wind-polished, carved with old runes that glow faintly when lightning flickers far away. Aragorn climbs to the summit and stands silhouetted against the sky like a king returned too late, while below the hobbits huddle in the hollow crown of the hill, trying to light a fire that refuses to catch. The air smells of ozone and old ash. Sam is boiling water for tea, the little tin kettle singing softly, when the temperature drops so suddenly their breath clouds white. Then the Black Riders come. They rise out of the darkness like smoke given shape. 5 of them at first, then 9, cloaks fluttering though there is no wind. Crowns of nothing where faces should be. The hobbits back toward the center of the ruin, clutching each other, and Frodo feels the ring leap against his chest as if it recognizes its servants. The Nazgul move in perfect silence except for the scrape of steel and the terrible intake of breath that is not breath at all. Frodo's hand closes around the ring before he can stop himself, the temptation flooding his mouth like bitter wine, and he slides it onto his finger. The world rips away. Suddenly he is in the Wraith world, everything gray and cold and sharp-edged. And the ringwraiths are beautiful in the most horrifying way. Tall kings with silver swords and eyes that burn holes straight through him. The Witch King raises his blade, and Frodo screams, a sound that has no air behind it, and he stabs wildly with his little barrel blade, even as the Morgul knife slides between his ribs like ice finding a crack in stone. Pain explodes white and endless. He tears the ring off and falls back into the real world, gasping, blood hot and wet against his shirt, the scream of the Nazgul echoing inside his skull long after they have vanished into the night. Have you ever been hurt so deeply that the world narrowed to nothing but the next breath, the next heartbeat? That is where Frodo lives now, curled on the cold stone while Aragorn drives the riders off with brands of burning wood that flare red against the dark. Sam's hands are shaking so badly he can barely hold the water flask to Frodo's lips, but his voice is steady, murmuring nonsense about roses and taters and, "Just a bit farther, Mr. Frodo, just a little bit farther." The wound will not close. It bleeds darkness instead of blood, and every hour Frodo slips a little more toward the shadow world, his skin turning wax pale, his eyes huge and glassy. Aragorn carries him for miles, the hobbit's head lolling against the ranger's shoulder, breath shallow and quick as a bird's. They call for help in voices that crack with exhaustion, and on the sixth night, when the moon is a cruel sliver again, hoofbeats answer. Glorfindel, bright as morning, riding a white horse that seems made of starlight and foam. Or, in the film, it is Arwen, daughter of Elrond, her dark hair flying like a banner, her face fierce with love and terror. She lifts Frodo before her on Asphaloth, and they ride for the ford of Bruinen with 9 black riders thundering behind, their horses' hooves striking sparks from the stones. The wind tears tears from Arwen's eyes and whips Frodo's hair across his face, and he is burning and freezing at the same time, the wound whispering in the Witch King's voice that he will never reach Rivendell, never see the sun again. At the ford, the river rises in a roar of white horses shaped by elven magic, sweeping the Nazgul away in a thunder of water and wrath, and Frodo feels himself falling into a darkness that smells of cold stone and distant singing. Have you ever let go completely, trusting someone else to carry you when you have nothing left? That is the last thing Frodo knows before the world fades. He wakes in a high white bed with sunlight pouring through arched windows, the scent of Athelas heavy and healing in the air, and Elrond's voice saying his name like a blessing. Gandalf sits by the bedside, looking older and younger at the same time, and when Frodo whispers, "Where am I?" the wizard smiles the first real smile in weeks. You are in the house of Elrond, and it is 10 o'clock in the morning on October the 24th, if you want to know. Frodo laughs, a cracked sound full of wonder, and outside the window the Bruinen sings over its stones like nothing terrible ever happened. Days of healing follow. Frodo walks in gardens where the leaves are turning gold and red, the air tasting of apples and wood smoke again. Sam is given a room with a round window and spends hours staring at elves as if they might vanish if he blinks. Did you know that Viggo Mortensen, who plays Aragorn, broke his toe kicking an orc helmet in real frustration and stating character so perfectly that Peter Jackson kept the take? That raw cry of pain and rage you hear in the film is completely real. It is the sound of a man who has finally come home and found it burning. On the day of the council, Frodo stands in the Golden Hall beneath portraits of ancient kings, and feels impossibly small. Elrond's voice rings like a bell as he tells the long history of the ring, Isildur's failure, Sauron's rising power, and every eye turns to the tiny hobbit when Frodo steps forward and says, so quietly that everyone leans in to hear, "I will take the ring, though I do not know the way." The silence that follows is enormous, filled with the rustle of leaves outside, and the sudden understanding that the fate of the world now rests in the hands of someone barely 4 feet tall who is terrified of spiders. Boromir stands then, tall and proud in the green and gold of Gondor, and his voice is rich with longing when he speaks of his city besieged, of the strength the ring could give them. You can almost taste the desperation on his tongue. Metallic like blood, Aragorn watches him with eyes that have seen too many kings fall to pride, and when Boromir sits again, the hall feels colder. But the decision is made. 9 walkers shall stand against the 9 riders. Frodo, Sam, Merry, Pippin, Aragorn, Boromir, Legolas of the woodland realm with his hair like starlight and his bow of Malorn, Gimli son of Gloin with an axe that catches every glint of sun, and Gandalf, staff tapping softly on the stone like a heartbeat. Have you ever promised something so large that the words themselves felt heavier than mountains? That is what Frodo does when he accepts the task, and that is what each member of the Fellowship does when they kneel in the autumn light and swear to see it through to the end. Let the rain settle into the gentlest possible drizzle now, barely more than mist, the kind that kisses your cheeks when you walk through Rivendell at twilight and feel your eyelids growing deliciously heavy, your thoughts soft and slow like honey dripping from a spoon, while we follow the newly formed Fellowship south along the misty flanks of the Misty Mountains. 9 small figures against the greatest darkness the world has ever known. They leave Rivendell on a morning so crisp the air tastes of silver. The Bruinen sings behind them, bright and laughing, and the road winds between silver birches whose leaves fall like slow golden rain. Galadriel and Celeborn stand on the bridge to see them off, and Galadriel's gaze lingers longest on Frodo. When she presses a small crystal phial into his hand later, the starlight caught inside it is warm against his palm, and her voice inside his mind is soft as moth wings. In this hour take the name that is given you. In the common tongue it is hope. He does not understand yet, but the phial rests against his heart beside the ring, and for the first time in weeks the two weights almost balance. They travel by day now, no longer hiding, because the enemy already knows where the ring is going. Aragorn walks at the front, cloak the color of wet stone, tracking the wind the way sailors read the sea. Legolas moves like light on water, feet making no sound on frost-brittle grass, and Gimli's breath steams in the cold as he mutters about the superiority of stone halls over these blasted open skies. Boromir carries the great war horn of Gondor slung across his back, its mouth carved like a snarling wolf. And sometimes when he looks at Frodo, his eyes flicker with something hungry and frightened at the same time. Have you ever watched someone fight a battle inside themselves and known you were the prize they were afraid to claim? Frodo feels that look every day now, and it makes the ring pulse like a second heartbeat. Winter grips the high passes. Snow falls thick and silent, muffling the world until there is only the crunch of boots and the soft huff of breath. Gandalf tries to lead them over Caradhras the Cruel, and the mountain answers with storm. Wind screams down the slopes like a living thing, driving ice needles into every inch of exposed skin. Snow piles above their knees, then their waists, and the Fellowship is forced into single file, clinging to a narrow ledge while the storm tries to peel them off the cliff and fling them into the void. Legolas walks on top of the snow as if it were marble, hair-whipping silver, and Gimli curses him with affectionate venom that makes even Boromir laugh until the wind steals the sound. Frodo is half carried by Aragorn and Boromir together, their arms locked under his, and the heat of their bodies is the only thing keeping the cold from stopping his heart. Did you know that the snowstorm on Caradhras was mostly real? Peter Jackson's crew was trapped for hours in an actual blizzard on a New Zealand mountain, and the footage of the actors, eyelashes freezing and their lips turning blue, is completely genuine. When Sean Astin, Sam, cries from cold and exhaustion, those are real tears freezing on his cheeks. Defeated by the mountain, they turn to the only path left. Moria, the Black Pit, the mines of Khazad-dûm, where Gimli's cousin Balin once ruled, and now lies silent beneath stone. The doors appear at dusk beside a dark lake that smells of rot and old secrets. Moonlight glints off still water, and Legolas's ears twitch at something moving far below the surface. Gandalf traces the Ithilden runes that only appear under starlight and moon, whispering the elvish word for friend, and the great stone doors grind open with a sound like mountains sighing. Inside is blackness so complete it feels solid, and the air is thick with the scent of dust and dwarf blood long dried. They walk for days through halls where once dwarves sang as they delved, and now only echoes answer. Pillars rise like frozen giants, carved with runes that hurt to look at directly. Gimli's voice cracks when they find Balin's tomb, the white stone cracked across the name, and the Book of Records tells in frantic scribbles how they were overwhelmed from below and above, how drums beat in the deep until the last dwarf fell. When Gimli kneels and touches the stone, his beard trembles against the floor, and Frodo feels the ring grow colder, as if it is pleased to be home in darkness. Then the drums begin. Boom, boom, doom. Soft at first, like a heartbeat under the world. Then louder, closer, until the very walls seem to throb. Orcs pour from every crack and crevice. Black blood, yellow eyes, blades like broken teeth. The Fellowship fights back to back in the vast chamber, steel singing, arrows hissing, Gimli's axe a blur of silver death. Boromir's horn blast fills the halls like the cry of some ancient beast, and for a moment the orcs falter. But there are too many, and Gandalf shouts for them to run. They flee toward the bridge of Khazad-dûm, narrow as a blade across a chasm that falls forever. Behind them comes something older than orc, older than dwarf. A Balrog of Morgoth, wings of shadow, mane of flame, sword-dripping fire that lights the darkness red as slaughter. The heat rolls ahead of it like a furnace door opening. Gandalf turns on the bridge, alone, staff and sword glowing white. "You cannot pass," he cries, voice ringing with power that makes the stones themselves tremble. The Balrog steps onto the bridge, and the stone cracks beneath its weight. Gandalf slams his staff down, and a blinding flash splits the air, the bridge shatters, and the demon falls roaring into the abyss, but its whip of fire lashes out and coils around Gandalf's ankle. He clings to the edge, fingers white on broken stone, and looks back at the Fellowship with eyes full of sorrow and love. "Fly, you fools," he whispers, and then he is gone, pulled into darkness and fire, leaving only the echo of his staff clattering on stone far below. Have you ever lost someone so suddenly that the world forgot how to make sense for a moment? That is the silence that follows, broken only by Frodo's raw scream, and the soft drip of Legolas's tears onto ancient dust. Aragorn drags them onward because stopping means dying, and they stumble out the east gate into a gray dawn where the air smells of pine and snow again, but nothing feels clean anymore. They reach Lothlórien at twilight, golden woods, where time moves differently. The mallow trees rise like cathedral pillars, wrapped in silver bark, and the leaves are still green, though it is deep winter everywhere else. Galadriel meets them on the edge of Caradhras, tall and terrible and beautiful, clothed all in white that seems to hold starlight. When she looks at each member of the Fellowship, they feel seen all the way to the bottom of their souls. Gimli bows so low his beard sweeps the ground, and Legolas weeps openly at the beauty of his kinswoman's home. Even Boromir lowers his proud head. That night they are given beds of softest moss and covers woven from spider silk finer than moonlight. Frodo and Sam are led to the mirror of Galadriel, a silver basin filled with water from a fountain that sings without ceasing. Galadriel's voice is soft as moth wings when she warns them that the mirror shows many things. Things that were, things that are, and some things that have not yet come to pass. Sam sees the Shire burning, trees cut down, Ted Sandyman's mill belching smoke, and he cries out in anguish. Frodo sees the eye, huge and lidless, searching for him across endless waste, and then he sees Galadriel herself crowned and terrible, beautiful beyond enduring, and terrible beyond endurance, if she took the ring. She refuses it, gently, sadly, and the moment passes like a storm that never quite breaks. Before they leave, she gives each member a gift. To Aragorn, the reforged elfstone that will one day name him king. To Boromir, a belt of gold leaves that makes his shoulders straighten with pride and sorrow. To Merry and Pippin, small silver knives that will one day save their lives. To Legolas, a bow of the Galadrim. To Gimli, 3 strands of her own hair, which is the greatest honor ever paid a dwarf. And to Frodo the phial of Galadriel, already warm in his hand. May it be a light to you in dark places, when all other lights go out. They drift down the great river in elven boats smooth as swans, the water silver under starlight, the current singing them south. The days are quiet, filled with the soft splash of paddles, and the scent of malern leaves still clinging to their cloaks. But the peace cannot last. Let the rain fade to almost nothing now, only the softest brushing against an imaginary leaf, the way the Anduin brushes the side of the elven boat while we drift toward the ending that has been waiting since the first firework lit the sky over Hobbiton, and feel your whole body so heavy, so perfectly heavy, that even lifting a finger would be impossible, because the story is carrying you now, carrying us both, and all you have to do is listen and breathe and let go. The Fellowship glides south on the silver current, past the towering Argonath, those colossal statues of Isildur and Anarion rising from the water like silent judges, arms raised in ancient warning, faces weathered but stern, and the wind smells of water and stone and distant snow from the misty mountains far behind. The boats are low and graceful, rocking gently, and the hobbits trail their fingers in the river, feeling the cool silk of it slide between them, while Legolas stands in the prow of his boat like a figurehead carved from moonlight, eyes half closed, listening to songs older than the river itself. Gimli sits amidships, polishing his axe with a scrap of soft cloth, the whetstone making a slow, rhythmic scrape that lulls the heart. Boromir's hands are never still. He grips the sides of the boat until his knuckles whiten, then loosens them, then grips again, as though the river itself is trying to pull something out of him he is not ready to give. They beach at night on small, grassy shores, build tiny fires that smell of driftwood and resin, and the stars are so bright they seem close enough to touch. Aragorn and Boromir teach the hobbits sword work by firelight, the clash of steel soft and careful so no one is hurt, and Boromir's laughter is warm when Pippin manages to parry a blow, but there is always a moment when his gaze drifts to Frodo sitting quiet on a log, and the laughter dies into something raw and aching. Have you ever wanted so badly to protect the people you love that you almost destroyed them? That is the war inside Boromir, every single night now, and the ring knows it, sings to it, curls around his dreams like smoke from the beacons of Gondor he will never live to see lit. On the 10th day out of Lórien they reach Amon Hen, the Hill of Seeing, and the air changes, grows thick and golden, humming with old power. The company is weary, heartsore, and Aragorn calls a halt at Parth Galen, a green lawn sloping gently to the water beneath ancient trees whose roots drink from the lake. The sun is low and red, turning the water to molten copper, and the Fellowship gathers to decide what must come next. Frodo stands apart, feeling the ring's voice louder than ever, promising him rest, promising him everything, if only he will use it, just once, just to make the pain stop. His knees tremble. He can hear Boromir arguing behind him, voice rising, insisting they take the ring to Gondor, use it as a weapon, save his city, save his people, and Aragorn's calm refusal cuts like cold steel. The voices blur into a roar inside Frodo's head, and he backs away step by step until the trees close around him and he is running blindly through the golden wood, leaves brushing his face like gentle hands trying to hold him back. He climbs Amon Hen to the high seat of seeing, and when he sits, the world falls open beneath him. Miles upon miles of river and forest and distant smoke rising from Isengard, and far to the east the black spike of Barad-dûr in the eye, blazing like a furnace. The ring is burning, and Frodo's fingers are on it before he realizes, sliding it onto his finger with a gasp that is half surrender. The eye finds him instantly, huge and terrible, stripping him bare, and Frodo rips the ring off with a cry that tears his throat raw. He falls from the seat sobbing, curled on the stone, and that is when Boromir finds him. Boromir's face is flushed, eyes wild with desperation and something darker. He speaks softly at first, almost kindly, about duty, about the strength the ring could give Gondor, about how Frodo is only a little hobbit who doesn't understand the need, and when Frodo backs away, Boromir lunges, trying to take the ring by force. The moment shatters. Frodo slips it on again and vanishes, and Boromir is left alone on the hill, hands empty, staring at them as though they belong to a stranger. He falls to his knees and weeps, great tearing sobs that shake his broad shoulders, because he has seen himself clearly for the first time, and the sight is unbearable. Have you ever betrayed your own heart so completely that the only thing left was to beg forgiveness from the wind? That is, Boromir on Amon Hen broken open, and somewhere inside the breaking the man he was always meant to be begins to bleed through. Frodo, invisible, runs down the hill in blind terror, the ring whispering that no one can be trusted now, not even Aragorn, not even Sam. He reaches the boats and is fumbling with the ties when Sam's voice calls his name, steady and heartbroken. Sam has seen everything, guessed everything, and he will not let Frodo go alone. They argue on the shore, Frodo desperate to protect his friend, Sam stubborn as old tree roots, until Sam steps into the water fully clothed and nearly drowns rather than be left behind. Frodo hauls him into the boat, both of them soaked and shaking, and Sam's arms around him are the only real thing left in the world. I made a promise, Mr. Frodo, a promise. Don't you leave him, Samwise Gamgee. And I don't mean to. They push off together into the current, two tiny figures in a little boat heading east toward Mordor, and behind them the Fellowship breaks forever. On the western shore, the rest of the company hears the horn of Gondor blow long and desperate. Boromir stands alone against an army of Uruk-hai pouring from the trees, huge brutes and white handprints, arrows thick as winter sleet. He fights like a man possessed, sword flashing, shield splintered, horn split in two, and every time he falls he rises again, roaring defiance, because Merry and Pippin are surrounded, and he will not let them die. Arrow after arrow finds him, one in the shoulder, one in the side, one through the chest, and still he fights until he sinks to his knees among the roots, blood bright on his lips, and the Uruks drag the hobbits away screaming into the forest. Aragorn reaches him last, cradling Boromir's head against his breast, and Boromir tries to speak through the blood. I tried to take the ring. I would have used it. Forgive me. I failed. Aragorn's tears fall on his face as he answers, No, Boromir. You fought bravely. You have conquered. Few have gained such a victory. Be at peace. Boromir smiles then, small and wondering, and whispers, Gondor, My brother, my captain, my king. Before the light leaves his eyes forever, they lay him in one of the elven boats, hands folded on his chest, cloven horn at his side, sword across his knees, and the Anduin takes him gently, carrying him south toward the sea he will never reach in life. Legolas pushes the boat out with trembling hands. Gimli stands silent with tears cutting channels through the dust on his cheeks, and Aragorn sings the Lament of the North in a voice cracked with grief. Through Rohan over fen and field where the long grass grows, the west wind comes walking, and about the walls it goes. Did you know that Sean Bean climbed a real mountain in full armor to shoot Boromir's death scene because he was afraid of helicopters? And every tear you see on his face is real, because the man who played the proud warrior was sobbing for the friend he had. That is the sorrow that lingers in the air now, thick as evening mist. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli stand on the shore looking east, where two small hobbits have vanished into the wilderness, and then west, where their companions are carried into captivity, and Aragorn tightens his sword belt with hands that do not shake. "We will follow the orcs," he says, voice steady as stone. "Let us hunt some orc." And the three hunters set off running, tireless, into the gathering dark. Far away, on the eastern bank, Frodo and Sam climb a rocky slope under a sky the color of ash, and when they reach the top, they look out over Emyn Muil, a cracked and lifeless maze stretching toward the black walls of Mordor. Sam tightens the rope around his waist, checks the pots and pans that clink softly at his pack, and says with simple courage, "Well, Mr. Frodo, we've gone and done it now. We're off to see the end of the world." Frodo manages a trembling smile, and hand in hand they start down the far side, two tiny sparks of light moving toward the greatest darkness, carrying with them the only thing strong enough to defeat it: love that will not turn back. Let the very last drops of rain fade into silence now, only the soft hush of wind through distant Malern leaves, and the gentle lapping of the Anduin against an elven boat long carried out of sight. And feel how perfectly still everything has become, how your breath has slowed to match the slow breathing of the world itself, how every muscle has melted into the bed, into the earth, into the story that has carried you all this way. The Fellowship is broken, yet somehow more alive than ever, Boromir redeemed in death and drifting south beneath stars that know his name. Merry and Pippin carried towards strange destinies among Ents and kings. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli running westward on feet that will not rest until friendship is repaid in full. And far to the east, two small hobbits, one frightened, one stubborn as oak, walking hand in hand toward the fires of Mordor, carrying nothing but a promise, a phial of starlight, and the quiet, unbreakable. You have walked every step with them tonight, tasted the blackberries on the Shire lanes, felt the Morgul cold in your own shoulder, heard Gandalf fall and Boromir's horn split in two, seen the light go out of proud eyes and come back softer, truer. You have carried the ring for a little while yourself, felt its whisper curl around your thoughts like smoke, and then felt Sam's warm, earthy hand pull you back from the edge. That is what this story has always been. A long, slow reminder that even the smallest person can change the course of the future, and that no one walks entirely alone. Have you ever noticed that when the film ends and the credits roll, the very first sound you hear again is the soft turning of a page? It is the sound of Bilbo in Minas Tirith. Years later, still writing, still remembering, still keeping every friend alive with ink and memory. That page is turning for you now, gently, lovingly, closing the book but never the love. Wherever you are in your own journey tonight, whether you feel as small as a hobbit leaving the Shire, as lost as Frodo on Amon Hen, or as broken and hopeful as Boromir in his final moments, know this: there is a Sam beside you, even if you cannot see him yet. There is a light waiting in the dark when all other lights go out. There is a story that refuses to let you go. Did you know that when Peter Jackson finished the final shot of the entire trilogy, Sam closing the door on Bag End years later, the entire crew stood in silence for a long time, and then, one by one, they began to cry. Not because it was over, but because they had lived inside Middle-earth for so long that leaving it felt like leaving home. That is the same quiet ache you might feel now behind your eyes, warm and safe and a little bittersweet. So let it come. Let the tears or the smile or the simple deep sigh of homecoming rise and fall with your breath. Let the Shire settle over you like the softest quilt. Round green door, smell of seed cakes, distant laughter of hobbits who never have to grow up quite as much as we do. Let Gandalf's fireworks bloom once more behind your eyelids, gentle and gold and soundless. Let Sam's steady heartbeat against Frodo's shoulder become your own heartbeat, slow and sure and unafraid. You do not have to hold anything now. Not the ring, not the day, not even tomorrow. The road goes ever on, but tonight it has brought you all the way home to bed, to blankets, to the quiet certainty that you are loved by a story that will never leave you. Breathe in slowly, hold just a moment, and breathe out everything that is not peace. Good. One more breath, deeper, and let it carry you across the last quiet waves into sleep. The fire is low, the candle almost spent, the rain has stopped, and somewhere far away a hobbit is closing a round green door very softly, so as not to wake you. Good night, dear friend. Good night. Sleep now, and dream of paths that lead ever onward, and of friends who will never let you walk them alone.